All right, so there is an additional exercise today. So we're going to do Excel, talk about that here in a bit, but the exercise is under today's folder. It's right here. You can read about it, but we'll review that in a second. And there is a midterm. It's online Thursday. So it'll be a hand drawing. And it'll not be Excel. So it'll be what we've been doing up until this point, probably an orthographic projection. So you'll have to make it at home, or you can come in. I do have a class on Thursday, 10:30 to 12:30. So you could come in and use these tables if you wanted to, but you can just do it at home. Cam scanner, photo it, upload, done deal. Okay, so that'll show up on Thursday. It'll be available all day. So don't miss that. What else? The cut for the iPad holder is due today. So that's due today, and I'm going to start migrating your hand drawings over to AutoCAD. If you know AutoCAD, you can do that for me. That would be wonderful. Yeah, I still want the hand drawing. I want the hand drawing uploaded because that is the point, to create the hand drawing with appropriate dimensions. So, and it's hard to do. Here's one that I just started to migrate over for the student. Not gonna pick on anyone here. So I have that student's name covered up, but let me show you what I got. So this is okay. When I printed it, the dimension lines didn't show up that great. So you really you have to get things black, right? So there is a dimension line here, but it's just not showing up when you go to print it or make a copy. So make sure everything's dark. This student probably tried to make these really thin, right? Because they're supposed to be thick and thin. That's good. But make sure it's just black enough to reproduce. That's helpful because there's a few dimensions that just didn't show up perfectly. They did have a title block down here, and they did have a scale, so that was good. Those are the requirements: scale, title block, date, name, that kind of stuff. And then you want to dimension things. So I think maybe you all thought it had to be on one piece of paper. It doesn't. If you want to spread out the parts, you can. I think most of you are probably already done or been working on it. But you can spread them out and then blow them up, and it's a lot easier to dimension than these small things are tough to dimension. And then try to just get all the dimensioning down on the drawing, because when I go to draw it, if I'm missing something, like for example, I don't know where that goes. So there's no dimension here for it, right? And I don't really see where it's going to line up to connect. So I can't even kind of interpolate where I think it goes. So it's easy to miss a dimension and forget one. It's really easy to do. So if that happens, I'll just send you an email or a note that says I'm missing a dimension. I'll try to explain. If you name the parts, it's helpful, right? So there's no names on the part here. So I can't even say part A or part B is missing a dimension on the bottom tab. So I'm going to have to try to explain what part this is. You should be naming your parts, right? And it can just be A, B, C, D, E, or it can be front, top, right side, left side, bottom, whatever those parts are. But without that, then the communication is really tough between whoever's using the drawing and whoever's created the drawing. Does that make sense? Try to stay away from fractions. Fractions is architectural civil stuff. This would be more mechanical. So this should have been 8 point whatever, right? And this should be 7 point whatever. It's easier to read. This is hard to read. Like, I think that's a 5/8. But again, that's why our lettering is so important. Like if I misread one of these numbers and then manufacture it and it doesn't come together, that's both of our faults, right? I couldn't read the thing. I tried to read it. I guessed. That's not good either. So I have to be able to read it in order to produce the AutoCAD drawings, or somebody else will have to be able to read it. you will be working in CAD, right? You'll be using AutoCAD or SolidWorks or something. You won't be doing this by hand. I get that. But we do a lot of redlining by hand. So once a drawing's created like this, I might actually write on this and return it to whoever produced it, right? That I just can't read stuff. So then if my handwriting's not legible, we're in this loop of just can't read each other's writing type of thing. So really try to make it super clean. Give yourself guidelines. Notes are great. Like you said a couple things as we looked at your drawing. You said like, oh, all tabs are this, or all things, you know, put those notes down, write them down on the drawing. Any kind of help to the person who's reading it is huge. 2 times, this is perfect. I get that, right? But you could actually write that out, you know, part A, 2 required. It could also go like in a legend here. If they were all named like A, B, C, D, and they were named down here, A, B, C, D, then you could have a quantity, Q, T, Y. Obviously, this would be nice and clean, right? And there would be 1 here. B, there would be 2. C, there would be, looks like 1 maybe, right? And then D, there would be 1. So you can do that too. Just create a little legend on your drawing and save yourself some time. This might be E, this might be F, and looks like there's 2 of each of those. Good? Questions? That make sense? Oh, on the, I didn't. I did not. I can do that though. All right, good enough on that. I want to do the new share. That's a faster method. All right, we're going to talk about Excel today and start moving into Excel. So engineering problem solving, we're just going to use different tools to solve different problems, right? We just did a bunch of graphics. That's this is a primary tool that we use, graphics. Excel's one of the big primary tools that we use also. And I would like to be able to use Excel through the program, right? I'd like to be able to say, hey, create an Excel spreadsheet for this problem. And then we can put in a bunch of variables, right? So super handy to use Excel for anything that is repetitive. If you're going to do it over and over and over, you should start to think about building a spreadsheet that will do that to aid you, right? So one of the first design problems I had when I went to work for Kiewit was conveyors. I had to design these rock hauling conveyors because we had rock crushers, and the rock crusher would create all these different size rock, right? And to get the rock away from the crusher, we used long conveyors, like 80-foot conveyors. But one conveyor would take like 3-inch rock away. One conveyor would take 2-inch rock away. One conveyor might take 3/4-inch rock away, right? And they had to be mobile. So they were like on wheels, and they had to fold and unfold because you can't really haul an 80-foot thing down the highway. They frown on that. So, but you can haul a 40-foot thing down the highway. So anyway, I designed these things, you know, the first month. And then they kept coming back and saying, oh, we need another conveyor, but now we need it 60 feet, not 80 feet. I'm like, this is just like an 80-foot conveyor, but now it's just 60 foot. And I had to recalculate everything, right? And then they'd come back and say, oh, now we need a 120. You know, it just was endless. I was the conveyor guy. So I finally created a spreadsheet for it. And really all I had to do in the spreadsheet was introduce into the spreadsheet the size of rock, because that was the weight that it needed to haul, the length, right? The width, because we did use different width belts. Some were 60-inch wide, some were 36-inch wide belts. Anyway, there was a number of variables. Once I just plunged them into my spreadsheet, it would just spit out the material required to build it. And I could just send it down to the shop and say, order all that. We're building a conveyor, order that motor, order that shaft, right? Order those rollers, it was just kind of automatic. So anything you're going to just repetitively do, Excel can help you a lot. All right. Who's had Excel before? Anybody? Okay, just Huh? Not like for, well, yeah, if you had a class, then you probably have some basic stuff. Yeah, so did you write equations much? Yeah. Yeah. So that's good experience. That's really good. If you take Excel on campus, they just like introduce you to equations, but it's like 4 + 4, and 2 × 2, which is kind of all we're going to do today. But the equations can get really complicated. And the setup for an engineering spreadsheet is a little different than the setup they would talk about in the Excel class here. So we actually just cover it in this class, so we kind of have it down. Excel's broke into pages, believe it or not. You can see this dotted line here. I don't know, can you see? Oh yeah, you can see that. So the page break is on. You can turn the page break on and off. It's in page layout, and you can do the breaks here. I like them on because really what I'm trying to produce is something that's going to look really good on a piece of paper, not just what's in Excel, right? So if I go to print, file, print, I want it to look like kind of an engineering document, not like a spreadsheet, right? So a lot of times when you get done producing these things, people don't even know it's a spreadsheet because you're going to hand them the piece of paper, right? Not send them my Excel spreadsheet. I'm keeping that thing. That's private. So go to print preview often just to see how it looks, because we would like it to look pretty here. What you're going to do is just a little assignment where you're going to draw in Excel a little 1-bedroom home, right? And to do that, you're just literally going to insert shapes. So this is not like AutoCAD. You can use AutoCAD, but in Excel, you can just use these shapes to set up what you're going to do, okay? And you can shade them or not shade them. Insert shape is here. And then if you go back home, or if you just click on it and go up to this little drawing tools, you can like fill it, not fill it, whatever you want. And remember, if you do no fill, these grids are not going to print, right? If I go to file, print, no grid, not going to show up. So far, this is what it's going to look like, right? So that's good. And if this is my little 1-bedroom house, I think I made you have a bedroom. Yeah, so it's a plan view, exactly. So maybe this is the bedroom. And again, you can leave the shading if you want. I take it off. And then I think it's supposed to have a kitchen. So the drawing you're going to make is super simple. You would not make a complicated drawing in Excel typically. And there's other ways to do this. You can actually use, like, there's all kinds of tools, right? You can use a line, and you could actually just draw a line if you want for these inside walls, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. So I'll make it black, right? So it's not a fancy drawing at all. But from this, we can use the graphic to then create the numbers that we'll use to calculate the square footage and the perimeter. So you're going to calculate the perimeter and the square footage, but you've got to give it size, like 20 feet. So the important thing to note about Excel is numbers have to be separate from letters. You cannot have alpha and numeric in the same cell. If you do that, you won't be able to do anything with the numeric. And the point is, we want to be able to calculate with that 20, right? So the feet have to be outside of it. And it's good notation to have actually, units on every number. So I'll make this one, I don't know, 35. I'm just making this up. And you can make yours up too, right? So notice that alpha is left justified and numbers are right justified. That's an automatic thing from Excel, but you have all the justifications right here. So if you wanted it centered, you could center it or left. But again, the important thing is, I'm emphasizing this, when you go to print, that's what it's going to look like, right? So if you have the feet way away from the number, it's going to look like crud. That looks pretty good, 20 feet, 35 feet, right? You can get as kind of fancy as you want with these shapes. Notice that there's a double arrow there. So you could, if you wanted to, I'm not requiring this, but do something like that. Probably not right on my number. Right, so now it's beginning to look like this. Okay, that's more descriptive, right? So you can throw little dimensions in there. But you're gonna have to size the bedroom. So maybe I need down here, let's say the bedroom is 12 feet. And the kitchen over here is gonna be, who knows, 10 feet. Right? So once you get it sized, then you can do some calculating and practice your equations. So area, and I want two things with the equations. If you make a mistake, to get back into this information, it's right up here in the formula bar. So you just click up here. I wanted that to be a capital A. Like that. And then I would put the equals here. You got to keep your equation separate from alpha, right? It's got to be on its own. So then I might right justify that. And this might need to be more descriptive. So area of the home. So notice if the cells, all that information is in one cell, right? All that information is in one cell. And it happens to be right justified, but notice it bleeds over onto this cell. It'll do that if that neighboring cell is empty. If there's something in the neighboring cell, like a number, then it won't do it. That makes sense? If you want it that way, then you have to open up this cell by dragging a column, but just know that it drags everything else. So it's a bit problematic to start doing that. It's better to just do a little planning and have things bleed over if you need more text into a space. Just know if you adjust a column, it's adjusting many things. And in this case, it's actually adjusting my diagram too, right? If I move things around, it changes the size of my diagram. So just be careful with that. Know that it's changing things. And as you do that, it looks like it's adjusting the size of the paper, and now my date went off the paper and I want it on the paper, so that I got to watch this dotted line too. To move it, I just highlight it, grab the edge. You'll see it goes to a 4-way and you can move things around. If you get that, means that column is not wide enough to display. And that's because this is a date format. That's why it's not bleeding over. So if you just put a date in like this, it's going to see it as a date and format it. All right. So now let's get the equation in. Anytime you want to make an equation in Excel, you have to start with the equal sign. The equal sign. That tells Excel, not going to be alpha, that this is going to be an equation calculating numbers. Okay, that's the big piece. Got to start with the equal sign. Then you can just literally click cells and use the multiplier symbol or the plus symbol or any kind of calculator symbol that you think might work, like divide is a slash, plus is a plus, multiply is a star. That all works in Excel. So you do not have to go up and create an equation. That's what this is. There's a lot of equations here. You don't have to use that. You can literally just click a cell and it'll put the cell in. And that's how we want to do it. We don't want to put the number 20 in because then we wouldn't be able to change the 20, right, in the future. So the point is to have a spreadsheet that is upgradable, that we can use over and over. Like the next house might be 25 feet, and I can just go in and change the 20 to 25 and it'll calculate everything out for me. So I'm going to go and use the star because I want to multiply by these two things to get the area of the home. Right? Notice that it color codes it. This is super handy when your equations get like really tough. It's taking blue times red, taking blue times red. It's unbelievably handy when you get a lot of things going on in an equation. And I hit enter, it should give me the solution. If I change this number, it'll give me a new solution. That's the way we want the spreadsheet to work. So I can go in and change a number. You can go in at a later date, change the number, and it'll just pump information out for you. Okay. Our equations are going to be pretty simple. I'd probably left justify that. Yeah, I might actually center that. And then put in feet squared. So feet squared can go in like that. It's not very pro looking. Like if I go file print and look at it, it's like, that's a little funky. That's not beautiful like I want it, right? And this is a little spaced out. So I might actually try to fix that by dragging this around. I did change this. If I want another column, I can go insert and it'll give me another column. So then I can like, oh, I could scoot this back out a little, get my thing, you know, scoot this over. So you can fuss with it quite a bit. The other thing you can do is you can insert equations just like in Word. So I can insert equation. Oh, I didn't want that one. I wanted to use one of their existing ones. Insert, I guess if you pull it down, yeah. So here's some basic equations that you can start with and then edit. So what I want is actually, I just want feet squared. I want it to look good. So I'm going to use this one and then just edit it. Ooh, it doesn't like that. I got to get the R. Like that. Well, that was trickier than I remember it being, right? Well, that looks good. Now I'm just going to get rid of this. And formulas are in little text boxes, so you can just drag them around. So there's lots of ways to make it. And again, is it time consuming? Yep. I'm taking a lot of time to make this thing look good, right? But then I save it and then I have it available for the next project. I don't have to go through all this again. If I know that I'm going to do this again over and over and over, that is kind of the power of the spreadsheet. And it's starting to look good, right? When the boss comes in and says, hey, we want another one of these things, but this time we want it this size, I'll say, okay. And I'll just go in my spreadsheet, change the numbers. I don't know, do some other things for a couple hours and then get it to them, right? So I don't want to do it too fast, but it'll make your life easy. And then the next one I think I have you do is perimeter. Did you inhale your water? Sorry. Oh, perimeter equals. So what would the perimeter be? That's the length all the way around, right? So it's going to be 2 of these, correct? And 2 of these. So again, I don't want to calculate it. I want Excel to calculate it. So I'm going to start with the equal sign. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go 2 times that one plus 2 times that one. So you can see the whole equation kind of up in the equation bar, or you can see it here. Excel understands order of operation, so I don't need to put the parentheses. It knows to do the multiplication first and then the addition, okay? But much more complicated than that, you need to use brackets and make sure it's doing things in the right order. 110. And again, this time it's going to be, I just use this thing again. Go Control C. Oops, didn't work because you got to click on the border. Control copy. Control, yep. Place it, set it here, but I don't really want feet squared. Something like that. Again, I tend to go to this view a lot and see what it looks like. Oh, that actually looks terrible. It's got a little box there. So I need to get rid of that box. which I don't even know if I can. Should be able to delete, nope. How about just FT? Ah, it's not the same italics. Don't really like that. All right, my OCD is kicking in. Get it? Get what you got to do. It's got to have a bedroom. It's got to have a living room. So this line really shouldn't be here. So maybe this is my living room. Here's my kitchen. I'd probably get rid of the fill. And just have line drawing. You don't have to give the walls thickness, right? You might want to name them like that would be definitely much more pro. So remember, you can justify this stuff. Maybe we can left justify it. I didn't really move it over. That looks good. And then kitchen. So then when I put everything down here, this would be perimeter of the home, area of the kitchen, blah, 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 blah. And then build all those equations and make it work. Simple. In the beginning, we're going simple. Then we'll get more complicated with our equations.
There is one thing I noticed with the others.
Yeah.
With perimeter, the equation that I do is 2L plus W in parentheses, 2 times that.
Yeah,
and
that works.
I had to do the actual times symbol between the two of the parentheses.
You do. Yeah, it doesn't understand no symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot like your calculator, but then it breaks down at times. That's exactly right. Yeah. And then if you have to use pi, like if you wanted the area of a circle, pi r squared, you can go get pi, or you can type in pi. So like if I go equals, and then I want pi in there, you have to just think like, what would pi be? P. So as soon as you type in the P, a bunch of options come up for equation writing, and here is one of them right there. It's pi. So if I just use pi, it's going to understand that, and it's going to tell you returns the value of pi, and I think it's out to 15 places. That's kind of cool, right? But that's the number it's going to use. So if I go pi, I don't know, times 2, it's going to do that if it understands this pi thing, right? So you have to accept it. Let me show you. Uh-oh, now it's not doing it. So you got to grab it. That should work. Why? So want it in brackets? Sometimes it's really like, nope. No, pi's weird. Oh, yeah. Open bracket, close bracket. That's the way it's got to be in pi. But I don't think it was telling me that, was it? Yeah, it tells you, see the little box? Open bracket, close bracket, but I don't know why it doesn't put the second bracket in for you. Like if I hit enter there, oh, it does it. So I guess just one bracket, because it does not like just regular pi. It says no to that. There you go. There's several quirks like that. So use that list when it pops up. Like if I wanted, I think it's, yeah, okay, so maybe this is the case. If I wanted average, I can get average and see how it leaves a bracket, because it's going to take an average of a selection of numbers. It needs more numbers to do something with it. Well, pi is a constant, so I think it's just under the same format where it needs pi, open bracket, close bracket, gives you pi. Anyway. And then if you have to use angles, like in the future, we might do some trigonometry and do sine and cosine. There's a radian issue there because Excel thinks in radians. So it gives you the answer in radians. So then you have to convert it to get to degrees, but that's in the future, not this project, so. I think you're good on this one. Questions? We're good? All right, well, if you do it here and you have some, don't hesitate to ask. That is it. I'm gonna continue working on drawings.